All right. Here we go. Fire it up. Fire it up. Let's see. Is YouTube awake? YouTube, you got to wake up. This is that moment of truth where I wait for the internet to officially announce us. And you know me, don't have no producer on site, folks. I'm a one-man shop. YouTube beat Rockfin by a little bit today. YouTube was a little quicker than Rockfin, but it's not a competition. What's up, everybody? What is up? Good afternoon to all my East Coasters. Good morning to all my West Coasters. My guest today is a West Coaster. Good evening if you're in an evening time zone. And to everyone in the future, Australia, New Zealand. You've had an extra day of science. Solve climate change for the rest of us. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Indie Left. Indie Left is the only place to find all the content creators, writers, and streamers you know and love. They got a platform. They update it twice a day to find out everything they got going on and to subscribe to their Discord community. Check them out over at independentleft.media. That's independentleft.media. And I want to tell you about an event happening on May 22nd, the U.S. Solutions Summit. You can just go check that out on the web at ussolutionssummit.com. It's an all-star panel being put on by KRTG Media. You can check them out at KRTG Media on YouTube and all the socials. It'll be streaming live on their YouTube channel and all other socials on May 22nd, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Graham Elwood's going to be there. Justin Jackson's going to be there. I'm going to be there. The Convo Couch is going to be there. Hardlens Vina is going to be there. Jimmy Dore is going to be there. For more information, ussolutionssummit.com. And that date is May 22nd, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. All right. Without further ado, my guest today is at a billboard unveiling. His billboard is about to be launched. He ran for Congress in the past. Now he's running for city controller. And he was kind enough to take a few minutes out of his day to chat with us. So we're going to chat with him in real time here. Please welcome Kenneth Mejia. What's up, Kenneth?
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Good to see you, buddy. So first of all, congratulations. We are, your billboard is about to drop as we speak. Like it's going to drop any minute now.
Oh, wait, it just dropped. So we put,
so it did drop.
We have a 15-second fast forwarded clip on Twitter right now. So it's blowing up.
Brilliant.
It's going viral right now. So yeah.
That is so cool. Is it on your Twitter? I'll go ahead and retweet it right now.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right.
Retweet, quote tweet.
All right. So let me refresh.
It's a 15-second video. Yeah. So.
All right, here, we'll let everyone see it too. Here, all right. So I just refreshed your Twitter. I'm on your Twitter, and let's
go
see.
Down.
Billboard just dropped.
Yeah,
oh,
and then
dude.
if you,
so we can watch it.
There it is.
Oh man, look at that! And then here it is. All right, so the new one's coming up.
All right.
Oh, look at that! Oh. That is so cool, man. I am liking it. I am retweeting it. So cool. Congratulations, buddy. That is very, very cool. So let me ask you a few questions. I know you only got so much time to spend with us, so I want to get right to it. We'll start basic. You ran for Congress, and now you decided to go local and go for city controller. Why?
Right. So I am a certified public accountant. So I do accounting and auditing over 11 years. And the city controller's race is basically the city controller is the chief accounting officer and the chief auditor. So I already do that professionally. And if you couple that with a progressive background, you know, my activism is around housing, around tenants' rights, around homelessness. And if you combine a progressive with an accounting profession, you make one awesome duo. And we really want to bring about radical transparency on the city's finances, on the city's performances, if they're doing a good job or not, if we're wasting money. And we also want to educate people because a lot of people don't know about where we're getting our money from, where it's being spent, or how to read the controller's website or how to read these reports that we're getting. So we're really running a mass education and a transparency campaign. And, I thought this was the perfect seat for us. It's for the entire city of LA. And, why not do something that actually people can say, oh, you know what? He actually is qualified. He does have the profession. He does have the background. And so, yeah, that's why we're running for city controller.
What are some of the problems in Mayor Eric Garcetti's budget that people need to know about?
Yeah, I mean, when you first look at it, it's $11.2 billion that the city's going to spend, and Garcetti's in charge of all of that, and he's proposing basically 27% of it to go to the police. It's always like that. It's the largest share of our city's budget that goes to the LAPD, and then you have two of the biggest issues like housing and homelessness, where housing is only getting 2% of the budget, and you have homelessness only getting 7% of the budget. So you're seeing a huge disproportion or inequitable share of where our city resources are going. And I think that's really what we're trying to put. And that's what we put on the billboard. We put housing, homelessness, and police, because we want people to know why things are the way they are, why housing is crumbling here, why we don't have affordable housing, why tenants are getting harassed and evicted, why people experiencing homelessness, it's just getting worse for them. The sweeps are getting worse. There's no housing being built fast enough, or shelters. And so we really want to show people and make that connection that this is systemic, and it all ties down to money and resources.
So one of the things Eric Garcetti is doing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, he's kind of touting that, oh, the police are getting a smaller percentage, but in reality, they're getting even more money than last year. Is that correct?
Right. And it's deceiving. He's saying that he even decreased the police budget, but he's saying he decreased it by 5%, but he actually increased it by 3%. So last year, Black Lives Matter LA and People's Budget LA Coalition were able to defund $150 million from last year's budget, which is this year's current budget. But Garcetti's not including that in his thing. So if you were to include that, he's actually increasing their budget by 3%. So he's actually increasing their money. And so, it's definitely deceiving, because on his budget summary, he shows a decrease for the police, but it's not true.
So, as a city controller, like what types of changes would you really have the direct authority to make?
Right. So for the city controller, we're not in a policy making position like city council or the
Hmm.
mayor or anything, but we are on the same level. Like we're an oversight role. So we provide support. We can affect policy. We can provide numbers. We can show how much money is being spent here. We could audit city departments to see if they're being effective or not, and give recommendations on changes to be made. And I think that's really some of the big powers that the controller has, is they can audit city departments like the LAPD, which has never been audited, and they can give recommendations, whether the city council takes it or not. But we also have the unique power of information. We can put information out there, and I think that's really, really key. And I think you hear the term knowledge is power, and that's true with us. Like when we launched in December, we put out all these financial numbers, all this information that people did not know. And now people are armed with knowledge that they could go to city council meetings, that they could talk to the mayor now, that they could talk to the city council member based on information that we're sharing. So I would say, when we get in office, we would love to audit city departments to see if they're being effective. We want to make sure we can provide radical transparency, just put data knowledge out there. And we just want to educate people on how to use our website to find information themselves, and become familiar with financial terms. And so yeah, that's some of the things we want to do.
So you're a numbers guy using your powers for good.
Exactly. And I think sometimes people just need information, and if you have that information, like, the masses can then lobby their council members to fight for their resources.
So what is the status of your race? Like, what does it look like? Who are your opponents? When will people be able to vote for you? That kind of thing.
Our election is June 7th, 2022, so a year from now. The reason why we launched last year in December, so 5 months ago, is because we have to campaign to the entire city. So it's not just one city council district. We have 15 in LA. We have to do the entire the city. So we're out here getting a head start now. We have the main opponent is Paul Koretz. Paul Koretz is a city council member right now, and you know, we don't want this musical chairs that's happening. You know, he's been elected to the assembly, he's been elected to city council, he's been in politics for a while, and you hear it a lot, but we need new, fresh ideas, and people who are really connected to movements and organizing, and who's gonna like do the hard work, right? You have to picture somebody who's gonna go out there and audit the LAPD. Is it gonna be our city council member who our city council is tied to the police? Probably not. Who's gonna audit and make sure that housing and homelessness are doing their job, or like we're spending the right funds or so, you know? And I think that's what we're gonna do, and we can't imagine that being done with the same old, you know, corporate backed politicians again. So yeah, that's our day, and that's sort of the landscape.
Well, and another thing that I'm wondering, so you look at all this money that they spend on sweeps, and they spend a lot of it, and these sweeps just brutalize houseless people. You know this, I know this. Um, would it be in your lane to make recommendations on all the better uses for that money? Because imagine what $30 million could do to help houseless people. I'm thinking a lot.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Like, we can make recommendations, and that's the good thing about the controller. The controller can make recommendations, and he could publicize it, and he can put it out there on like an official city document and be like, hey, we are holding the city accountable, and if they are not listening to our recommendations, we go straight to the people, right? So the controller is beholden to the people, whether or not the city council or the mayor takes it or not. But at least we're going to have that information. We can show if the money's being spent wisely. You know, we're going to spend $57 million on sweeps next year, and it's like, is that going to be a good use of money? You know, of the homelessness budget, we're going to give $9 million of that to the police. Like, why would you give the homeless budget even a small chunk of it to the police at all? So
Oh
definitely we
my
could give
God.
recommendations to make sure our money's being used more efficiently and effectively.
So it seems like a city controller, and this, I mean, obviously, you know, you're in Los Angeles, I'm in Los Angeles, but this is applicable to everybody. You know, in local politics, when you think about it, a city controller with a grassroots team behind them is the best kind of city controller you could ever ask for, because they're going to be sharing this information. They're going to be able to submit recommendations on how to better use a budget. And that's a way to institute systemic change.
Right. Exactly. Mhm.
So, where else would you like? I want to ask another specific example. One of the issues that's very important to me, and you and I have talked about this before, is municipal broadband. And right now there's a bill out there, and it's you know, it's a state bill where they're you know, they're going to make some funds available for broadband development throughout the state. Presumably, if it passes and if there's no poison pills inserted at the last minute, you know, we're still kind of playing the waiting game. But if that bill were to move forward, would it be like something like you would go to a city controller? How can we best allocate the budget for a municipal broadband project in LA? Like, would that be something that would fall into your jurisdiction?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everything that the city spends its money on, whether it's a policy position or not, we have to find the money. And you know, the controller has a unique position to find the vendors at the best possible price, to make sure it happens and it's funded, you know, and it works. Like, we can audit the program to see if it works. You know, I think right now we're only budgeting $5 million to close the digital divide in LA for next year, but you know, that's nothing compared to
That's nothing. Yeah.
yeah, it's very small. And you know, I think municipal broadband is the way to go next. And I think, yeah, definitely controller. We would definitely be able to see if we have the resources or how much it would cost to provide it, and if it could be rolling out. So I definitely would love to help out with that too. So yeah.
Well, I'll be calling on you. Worry not. But in the meantime, if you when you win this position, what are your first priorities to start auditing? What are your first priorities to start diving into?
Right. So I think for us, I mean, we definitely want to dive into the LAPD. I think it's probably going to be like a year long audit just to see how you know, how they're performing, how their performance measures are, seeing how much they are spending on overtime, auditing timesheets to see what they're actually doing, to see if it actually makes sense. And it would be like, you know, in our conclusion, we found that most of the time, police officers were spending, you know, their overtime writing papers at the very end of the day. And, you know, and I think that's where, that's a good chunk of our city's money goes to like overtime, right? Another thing we want to do is like audit their performance at protests, see how they're what they're doing over there, to see if they're being like using our tax dollars efficiently, right? Because like at Echo Park, they brought 400 cops out there, and no one was there to keep them accountable. So I think, imagine if you had a controller's office there, like wearing like a bright green or yellow hat, saying like, "This is the controller's office. We are auditing you." Make sure, you know, like making sure that they are not, and you know, we're taking pictures and videos and we're holding them accountable to show that this is where our taxpayer dollars are going. And I think that's really important to show people, like, why does the police department get a third of our budget or close to it, right? So I would say auditing the LAPD. We'd also like to audit and make sure that homelessness funds are being used efficiently and effectively. You know, a lot of our costs on building new permanent supportive housing is on soft costs like lawyer fees and all those definitely administrative costs, which drives up the price of our permanent supportive housing units to like $600,000 a unit to build. And it takes 6 years to build. So we definitely want to audit that to make sure funds are being used efficiently there. And we also want to audit the housing department too, to make sure that they are helping tenants who live in rent controlled units, who are struggling, who are getting harassed by landlords, and they're responding to people in a fast amount of time. And so I would say auditing LAPD, homelessness funds, and then the housing department is like 3 big departments that we want to check out.
So I want to ask you another question on that, and then I want to ask you kind of just a broad thing, but specifically, why is it that the city is able to underutilize resources that it was given? So one of the things that comes to my mind is Project Roomkey. And I know you've been, very active in that. I know you've been on the ground with a lot of folks. Why was that so underutilized by the city when they were given the resources for it? What did they end up doing instead? And basically, how are they getting away with it?
Yeah, I mean, like we spoke to Ron Galpin, the current controller, and we asked about the FEMA funds. And we found out that the city has the cash flow to front the cost for all these hotels to house our unhoused neighbors in hotels during the pandemic, right? And Garcetti and the city council were saying that we don't have the cash, we don't have the money. And then we went to the controller, and the controller said, actually, we do. And he was actually bothered by their response. And so we found out about this like a year later, where we could have had so many people instead of only housing a few thousand. And it just goes to show like the lack of political will, or the lack of, care, about people who are the most vulnerable living on the streets. You always hear about them talking about like helping our homeless population. This was the best opportunity that they had, that they were ever gonna house people like for free. It's free money. And it's very disturbing, because this was like the most perfect, it was the perfect moment, because you had the money and you could literally get hotels to do it. But they're trying to put the blame on the hotels. I mean, there are hotels too that get the blame, because some didn't even want to participate, but there are some that did. And I think the reason that we didn't have cash flow was all a lie. It was a lie. And I think it just goes to show there's just a lack of political will to actually help people.
Well, and that's what's really appealing about somebody like you, because you are someone who has a big grassroots network. I mean, you are engaged with a lot of activists in different areas. You are a local organizer. So someone like you in this position, nobody would be lacking that information at any point in time. They would know exactly what money we have at our disposal.
Exactly. I mean, we would have information readily available, and we would display it in ways people can understand. Because what people will say now is like the controller's website currently has a lot of information. It's true, but if you're like the average person and you go on it and you can't read it, or you can't download something or your computer freezes, like what good is information if it's not accessible? So, you know, we're gonna get that information, we're gonna put it out there, we're gonna teach people how to use it so they're not, you know, confused. And you know, we also want to start a like a social justice audit department, which has never been done, I think. And basically, you want to have people who and you really need this. You need to have people who can tie city resources and funding to actual like movements and making progress in society. And I think, you know, the controller's office right now, they can make recommendations, but if you just have a bunch of accountants and they're not like really connected to how things are on the in reality to the streets, it's going to be hard to make that connection too. So we definitely want to have an audit department that can connect the issues on what's actually like happening on the ground. So for example, like if we go to a sweep or something, like that would be we would audit a sweep, or we would audit, like I said, the protests when all the police are there, you know, that so we definitely love to make a social justice audit department too. But yeah,
I love the
definitely we
sound of
can do
that.
so much.
I love the sound of that. So, Kenneth, I don't want to keep you from your celebration. I just got one more question for you, and I appreciate you taking some time out to chat with me.
Sure.
But my last question, just a little bit of a more practical, personal one. So, what are some of the big differences you've noticed running for a local position versus when you ran for Congress?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference is partisan. It's partisan politics are different. When you run for Congress or state or federal level, it's all about party. Democrat versus Republican versus Green versus, you know, any color. Um,
And for
Local
anyone who
is not
doesn't recall, you ran as a Green.
as a Green, right? And so local here, it's nonpartisan. People are more connected to the issues. I also like the fact that when you run for local office, you're definitely more connected to everything that's happening here, like on the ground. And the biggest issues that are happening locally are policing, homelessness, and housing. And I think those are issues that are very like dear to me. And I think you know, I'm glad to be running in this local race because politically also as well. I mean, not only is it nonpartisan, but here in LA, it's good for progressives and grassroots candidates because the city does matching funds. So if every dollar that we raise from an LA resident, it gets multiplied 6 times. So if LA resident donates $100, the city will give us an additional 600, so 700 total. So it really helps us out with like growing as a grassroots campaign. We qualified for matching funds just like a few weeks ago, where we had to raise 32,000 from LA donors, and we beat that easily. So you know, it's really a whole different ball game between national and local.
And you prefer the nonpartisan thing? Like, I mean, I'm getting that vibe. Like, you like
Yeah,
that better?
yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I mean, I mean, being a Green and running for Congress is like so hard. It's so hard, especially in this day and age where partisan politics is so polarized. I'm glad that in local politics, as it's nonpartisan, people look beyond that. People look beyond affiliation because what happens here locally is, you know, is really, really important, and it affects people much dearly that, you know, if people saw like a D or a G or an R, it would just, you know, people would just dismiss that, you know. And I think, and then unfortunately, that's just the way it is, right? Like that's just how it is. But yeah, I mean, I really do enjoy the local side.
All right, Kenneth, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Before you go, please tell everyone where they can go to learn more about you and to get involved and to help out should they choose to.
Of course. So you all can visit mejiaforcontroller.com, 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 and you can find us on social media at Kenneth Mejia LA.
All right. Thanks so much, Kenneth. Congratulations again, and go enjoy your celebration, buddy. You've earned it. Congrats on the billboard. It looks great.
Of course. No, thank you, Ron. And, you know, for everyone watching here, Ron was like the first person who interviewed us in like 2017 when we ran the first time. So, you know, I feel like we've grown over the past 4 to 5 years, and, you know, thank you for still being around and highlighting progressive voices and, you know, fighting for that change. So thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Kenneth. I appreciate everything you do, man. And I'm rooting for you, and we'll definitely be in touch. Be well. Congrats on the
All right.
billboard.
Of
All right,
course.
man.
Thank you. Take care.
Peace.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye. That was Kenneth Mejia, huh? That's pretty cool. He took some time out of his celebration to chat with us. That guy does some. You know how I am, folks. I like my electoralism the way I like my veggies, local. I like it local. And I know that I hope that it's not alienating, because when I focus on local politics, I focus on where I live in LA because I live here. But all the stuff we talk about, all the principles, that applies to your community too. What Kenneth's trying to do as a city controller, any city controller could try to do that. That's why there's benefits to having a city controller who has a big grassroots support like Kenneth does, and is connected to a ton of grassroots efforts like Kenneth is, and who wants to be transparent like Kenneth does. That's the best city controller you could ask for. And that's where a city controller can be really important. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm wishing the best for Kenneth, and I definitely hope he wins. I know that I said a little while ago I would not give any money to any politicians, only causes, and I've already had to alter that rule a tiny bit. So I tweaked it a little. I will give money to local efforts. Local efforts is different. I've already given money to one of the folks running for city council. Anyway, so a lot of the stuff I say about electoralism, locals kind of the exception to an extent. Not saying corruption doesn't happen locally. Of course it does, especially here in LA. But you know what I mean. So again, Mejia for controller. That's FOR Mejia MEJIA for spelled it out controller.com. Check that out. And of course, you can follow Kenneth over on the Twitter at Kenneth Mejia LA. That's just Kenneth Mejia LA, where he will tell you not just about what he's got going on running for controller, but he's connected to a lot of other grassroots efforts as well. So good for Kenneth. And I wish I was at his celebration. I'm getting a little FOMO. I wish I was out there right now celebrating. So thank you guys for being here. I know it's a little bit of a shorter episode, but I want to go to a pet. Before we sign out, first of all, I'll go to the chat. And if you got any questions, feel free to Rockfin tip or super chat it up. And I'll hit up the chat, of course. And then we're going to do another animal. I enjoyed this yesterday. We're going to shout out another person's pet. And I'm going to do this every episode because it helps keep me sane. But let me go to the chat first before we do that. Watson, what's up, buddy? Watson, I hope you win. I'm sure you're talking to Kenneth, not me. I know you're talking to Kenneth. But Watson says, I hope you win. If you do, make all your findings and suggestions publicly loud. You'll be governor someday. Peace. I'll definitely relay the message to Kenneth. Thank you for that. I'm sorry he couldn't stick around for the chat, but again, he was in his car celebrating his billboard, so I didn't want to keep him too long. But yeah, I appreciate him spending some time with us. But Watson, I will make sure he gets that message. Thank you for that. Oscar, what's up? Thank you so much for the flying pear. Y'all know I love pears, and I love it when pears are flying and full of joy. Let me go over to the Rockfin. Aspen Fallen. What's up, Aspen Fallen? I hope you are well. Big Kenneth Mejia fan. He's the real deal. Thank you for interviewing him, Ron. Keep up the good fight. Thank you very much for that, Aspen Fallen. And thank you for the tip over on the Rockfin. I appreciate it. You help keep the show on the air. And yeah, I mean, I've had Kenneth a couple times over the years. I really appreciate the work that he does. I really appreciate the efforts that he makes, and I'm really rooting for him. I think he'd make an excellent city controller, and I'm really hoping he wins. Norv Maples, great work, Ron. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Norv, for the Rockfin tip. You help keep this show on the air. I appreciate it very, very much. And let's see. Let's go to a pet, shall we? Let's go to a pet. All right. So I'm going to be revisiting this. Feel free. This is the tweet. It just says, "Hey, leave your pets' names, blah, blah, blah." And I tweeted it on May 6th. Feel free to reply to this. All right. That's Krish. We'll talk to Krish. Krish is a regular on the show. So let's see. Oh, look at this. Becky, your animals are being featured today. And they say wolf. They don't say meow. Where's Lucy? She's asleep on her cat tree. Look at this. Frenchie and Marshall. I'll give it a like. I'll try to make sure. They are adorable. Look at Becky's dogs. Don't you just want to? I just want to jump in the middle of that on the couch and just start petting those two dogs and just it's the best, isn't it? Isn't it? It really is. Lucy's the best. Animals are don't you just? Lucy's asleep on her cat tree. But anyway, Frenchie and Marshall, they are adorable. Are they? So I can't tell. Are they pugs? They kind of look like they might be, but maybe not. I'm not good with this stuff, so you'll have to pardon my ignorance there. But I want to say they might be pugs. Anyway, they say Becky's dogs, Frenchie and Marshall, they say wolf, and Lucy says meow, and Becky says peace, and I say peace. Thank you guys so much for being here. I know it's a little bit of a shorter episode because Kenneth was at the celebration, but I'm glad we could catch up with him a little bit. To learn more about him, again, go to Mejia4, spelled out F-O-R, Mejia4controller.com, and follow Kenneth on Twitter at Kenneth Mejia LA. Watson, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. You help keep the show on the air. Oscar, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. You help keep this show on the air. And Norv and Aspen Fallon over on the Rockfin, thank you so much for the Rockfin tips. You guys help keep this show on the air. Thank you, Norv. Thank you, Aspen Fallon. We will be back Monday for an official Get Your News On with Ron stream. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, in fact, Monday, let me see what date is Monday. Oh, yeah, Monday. I'm really excited. Eleanor Goldfield is going to be joining the show, and I'm going to be listening to her new album in the meantime, and we're going to be talking about it on Monday. I'm really excited to have her. She's going to be an amazing Music Monday guest. I've been wanting to have her in general, and she's got a new album out now, so we're going to be talking about it on Monday, as well as other news of the day, so I'm looking forward to that. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow, and what are the dogs' names again? Frenchie and Marshall, they say wolf, and Becky says peace, and I say peace. See you Monday. Peace.